Huh. Okay. Okay, so when I click on somebody, they die. Awesome advice. Sorry, I was just catching up on some reading. But speaking of catching up on things, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback, which has made my little heart tingle in all the ways that make me happy. So, in a bit of overexcitement, I may or may not have blown up the city behind me. Happens to the best of us. But you know what doesn't happen to the best of us? War Thunder's maps. I know I'm making another video on maps, but this time, we're not going from the ground, we're going into the air. And you may be thinking, oh, it's air battles, it's open space, a 3-dimensional battlefield. But there are some caveats. Yes, the general terrain of most maps don't actually make much of a difference. But in the case of the big variants of specific maps, like Vietnam, Grand Canyon, so on and so forth, there are some problems in regards to balancing and just generally fun. What are these problems, you may ask? Well, let's picture this. Close your eyes for a second, and then open them again because you're watching a video. You just spawned on, let's just say, Big Spain. And you realize that you're on Big Spain. But unfortunately, the jet that you're flying does not carry adequate munitions for a long-range engagement. So, what do? Starts with the J key and ends with you back in the hangar. Roll the clip. You may notice that my friend here is in a MiG-21. Not just any MiG-21, the MiG-21 bis. Hungarian. Ooh, he's feeling hungry. But his loadout is, coincidentally, only R60 MKs, because the R3R is a bit of a questionable missile to be using at this high of a battle rating. But some people make it work. You do you, my kings. Anyways, R60 MK. Great dogfight missile, all aspect. But unfortunately, it's not exactly known for its long-range performance. So, what is a guy to do other than J out or fly for 10 to 15 minutes and get pub dunked by an R24? Happens to the best of us. However, this is not the most egregious example of someone getting utterly screwed over by the fact that they got a map that isn't very suitable for the jet that they're flying. Enter most of the F-104s in this awful game. The F-104G. Italian, Chinese, it doesn't matter which flavor of F-104 you're flying, so long as that 10.7 battle rating, your all-rear aspect loadout with no flares, no countermeasures, no hope, and no dreams has left a lot of players, by that, a lot of players meaning really just kind of me, heartbroken every single time that they load into this map. And God forbid that you decide to fly an attacker that's relatively slow, not that one. Yeah, that one. But instead, the Thai Alpha Jet. 10.7, all aspect load. Hey, that's pretty good. But you know what's not pretty good? Loading into Big Vietnam and then flying straight until you just kind of fall out of the sky, either from the fact you fell asleep at your keyboard or, you know, you got pub dunked by someone who has this crazy thing called a top speed, missiles, or radar, and or radar missiles. This isn't so much an issue at top tier, where the average engagement distance sits around 16 kilometers thanks to things like AMRAAM, Mica EM, you know, ARH stuff. And especially at 13.0, where you have things like your F-14s slinging Phoenixes at 40 plus kilometers, or the Fakor 90 if you're feeling a little spicy. So, how do we solve this? First things first, I would like to preface that these big maps, they aren't exactly a bad thing. They are a solution to a problem that Gaijin created themselves a long time ago when adding missiles like the AIM-54 Phoenix, the Fakor 90, AMRAAM, all those sorts of fun things. These missiles kind of sort of break at maps that aren't comically large. Because back in the day, we had situations where F-14s would take off, spam phoenixes, and then those phoenixes would reach people basically on the other end of the map, because you could lock and fire these missiles from spawn to spawn because their range was just so absolutely crazy. Jets like this do not belong on these smaller maps, and that's okay. And so that's what these big maps are really for, is for these really long-range platforms to stretch their legs. And that goes for the earlier BVR jets as well, your Phantoms and stuff like that, that carry semi-active radar homing missiles instead of active radar homing missiles. And these big maps are absolutely fantastic for them because they get to actually use the BVR capabilities that their jet has. Now, the problem comes is when your jet doesn't have BVR capabilities. And unfortunately, for a lot of jets that sit around 11.0, 10.7 that aren't Phantoms, they don't have any significant BVR capabilities. An R3R isn't going to reach out and touch somebody with an R24R. That's just not happening. As well as there are cases with, say, the F-104 where you have no flares, no bitches, and only rear aspect missiles. What are you supposed to do at 10.7 if you get one of these big maps? Because if you get one of these big maps, because the floor is 10.7, you are guaranteed to be in a up tier. There's just no way for you to win in that situation, or at least have any modicum of fun. Because by the time you get to the battle, if you climb, you get nuked by a radar missile. If you don't climb, well, you're an F-104. What are you supposed to do? Now, there are F-104s with radar missiles, but AIM-7E is garbage. And you wouldn't want to give up your gun for either an AIM-7 or an Espide. It doesn't matter how cracked out of your mind you think these missiles are. Losing the gun on the F-104 is probably the biggest nerf to your fighting capability that you can do to yourself. Not to mention that early F-104s simply do not have flares. What are you supposed to do? The answer is die, lose, cry. A lot of the jets that sit at 10.7 do not have the abilities to properly fight on these very large maps against jets like MiG-23ML, even F4F Phantom 2s. Like, these jets just completely clown on them. And there's nothing that they can effectively do to stop it. So, my suggestion is as simple as raising the minimum battle rating that these maps can be seen at. 11.0 is a good sweet spot for these big maps because that's when you get into jets with proper long-range missiles. You know, like your F4EJ, or just F4E for people who, you know, don't hate themselves. I do not like the F4EJ, but I still play it because I am addicted. 11.0 is a great battle rating for these maps. And so, that's pretty much the only thing I can think of that would solve this problem without, you know, having to move more battle ratings around than really should. Though I would highly recommend Gaijin to move some F-104s down in battle rating, but I understand how that's a slippery slope. F-104A. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope that this video has met your expectations once again. Consider liking and subscribing, and a heartfelt thank you to all those who commented, liked, and gave constructive feedback in the comments. I do appreciate it, and I do read it, and I hope that this video has, well, met those expectations and or surpassed them. I'm sorry that it's a bit shorter than it normally is. Well, not much I could do about that. Air battle maps are, well, pretty to look at, and that's pretty much it. Last time I recall, three-dimensional space just kind of goes. Especially when, well, the ground is there, and jets, they fly. So, awesome. Have a great day, and thank you for watching.